This is the tragic story of Shaun and Dale Delaney, two brothers whose constant competition eventually led to murder. Shaun and Dale Delaney were two brothers who lived in rural North Florida. They grew up in the small town of Perry, in Florida's rural Taylor County, in the Panhandle region. From the beginning, theirs was a rough-and-tumble relationship, full of constant bickering and competition. They fought over everything, whether it was who could throw a baseball farther to who should get the last roll at dinner. Everything was a competition to them. Their competition was perhaps a product of their very different personalities. Shaun, the oldest brother, was gregarious and outgoing, an excellent athlete, while Dale was the more introspective and studious of the two, shy but intelligent. Shaun, who was the older brother by a year, was very outgoing and friendly. A natural athlete, he was on the high school football team and was known for his strong arm and quick feet. Shaun had a lot of friends and was popular around town. Dale, on the other hand, was quieter and more introspective. He was a gifted student who enjoyed reading and studying and did well in school. He was known for being the smart one, and his classmates often came to him for help with their homework. Growing up, the two seemed to live in two very different worlds. Shaun could often be found playing on the football field, while Dale was usually found studying in the school library. After high school, the two brothers began working in their parents' trucking business in Perry. Years later, in 1994, their parents had both retired, and the brothers jointly took over the business. Shaun, 26, was in charge of the day-to-day operations, such as ensuring the trucks were running smoothly and scheduling deliveries, while Dale, 25, took care of the paperwork, like insurance, employee records, and accounting. Fast forward to 2019, Shaun had been married and divorced twice, with 5 children. Dale had been married and divorced once with 2 children. The brothers had largely put aside their differences and had settled into a routine of running their business together relatively smoothly. They would occasionally have disputes, as family members always do, but at the end of the day, they were still brothers and always managed to patch up their differences. And then Valerie Hampton walked into their lives. Valerie Hampton was 19 and, by any standard, a real beauty with a certain innocent girl charm that men found attractive. But Valerie had experiences in life that many girls her age had not encountered. A recent transplant from Alabama, she had moved to Florida to start a new life. Back in Alabama, Valerie had an affair with her former boss, Jack Hoover, a 49-year-old man who was married with children. He bought her a condo where they would meet regularly, a car, and everything else she wanted. Eventually, this sexual relationship resulted in a pregnancy. Once Jack found out that Valerie was pregnant, he did not want to have anything to do with her or the baby. The only thing he was willing to do was give her money to start a new life without him. Valerie's mother was an alcoholic, and she never met her father. With not much of a family to call her own, Valerie was basically alone in this world, with nobody to help her with a newborn baby. So, one day in January of 2019, she came into the Delaney Trucking Company to put in an application for an opening. Shaun, now 51, and Dale, 50, both met with Valerie and were immediately taken with her. She had a warm, friendly manner that made her easy to talk to, and she quickly impressed them with her charm, good looks, and enthusiasm. The Delaney brothers didn't waste any time. They decided to hire Valerie on the spot. She was offered the position of dispatcher, which meant she would be responsible for handling phone calls, scheduling deliveries, and keeping track of shipments. Valerie was excited about the opportunity and accepted the job right away. It was then that things began to get complicated. The arrival of Valerie Hampton had brought a mix of excitement and trouble into the lives of the Delaney brothers. What began as a new job opportunity soon turned into a complex and tragic situation that would change their lives forever. As Valerie settled into her new role, the dynamics between Shaun and Dale began to shift. Her job required her to interact with both Shaun and Dale regularly, and with her warm and friendly personality, she managed to get along well with both brothers. But her presence also began to create some new tensions between the brothers. The once smooth-running business now had an added layer of personal drama that neither of them had anticipated. The Delaney brothers had always been competitive with each other, and Valerie's arrival brought back and intensified their rivalry as if they were little boys again. Shaun and Dale each wanted to be the one who spent the most time with her. This competition was not just about spending time together, but also about who could impress Valerie more. The brothers started competing for Valerie's time and attention. Shaun thought he should be the one to supervise her since she was part of the operations team. Dale, on the other hand, believed that as he was in charge of human resources, he should oversee her work. Their disagreements over Valerie's supervision led to more tension between them. This new rivalry wasn't about business anymore. It was about Valerie. As they continued to compete for Valerie's attention, Shaun, who was the more outgoing of the two, was the first to make a move. He asked her out on a date, and she agreed. The date went well. Shaun's charm and outgoing nature soon won Valerie over. From there, their relationship quickly grew from friendship into romance. This new relationship caused even more friction between the two brothers. Dale, who had always been the quieter and more reserved of the two, now felt left out and hurt. Before long, Shaun and Valerie were officially a couple, and by March of 2019, Shaun proposed to her. Valerie accepted his proposal, and they were soon engaged. Shaun's grown-up children were not happy to hear the news, and Dale seethed with anger. Despite their rivalry, he had always been close to Shaun. But now it seemed like Shaun was getting everything in life, both in business and in love, while he was left with nothing. Dale was struggling with his feelings, and the tension between him and Shaun only grew. Hey, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like our content and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Do you have any thoughts about this case, or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe. Valerie, only 19 years old, was still young and immature. She was easily flattered by the attention that both brothers gave her, and her engagement did not stop her from continuing to flirt with Dale. Their playful and innocent interactions soon turned into something more serious. One day, the flirting led to a first kiss, which evolved into a full-blown romance, something both she and Dale kept secret from Shaun. Valerie and Dale began seeing each other in secret. Soon Valerie was in a difficult position. She found herself torn between Shaun, whom she was engaged to, and Dale, whom she had developed a deep connection. One was confident, cheerful, and outgoing, while the other was sensitive, thoughtful, and kind. Both were old enough to be her father. The situation was complicated, and the emotions involved were intense. This secret affair created a lot of stress and confusion for Valerie, who didn't know how to handle the situation, but it was only a matter of time before the truth would finally come out. The brothers' subconscious competition over Valerie started to affect their work as well. Shaun and Dale were no longer just co-workers. They were rivals who were locked in a personal and emotional battle. They continued to run the trucking business, but the underlying tension made it harder for them to focus on their tasks. They would argue more often, and the atmosphere at work became strained. The once friendly environment at Delaney Trucking was now filled with unspoken conflicts and unresolved feelings. The situation was becoming increasingly difficult to manage, and the consequences of their rivalry were starting to become clear. The future of their business and their personal lives were now at stake. The conflict finally reached a breaking point on May 2, 2019, when Shaun discovered the affair. Valerie and Dale had been sneaking around for weeks, keeping their relationship hidden from Shaun. They would meet in secret places, like a quiet park near their office or an out-of-town hotel. But on this day, their luck would run out, with tragic consequences for all involved. It was a Friday, a day when Shaun normally was not in the office, leaving Valerie and Dale to work alone together there. However, on this day, Shaun decided to surprise his fiancée with flowers and chocolate, a prelude to a special night out he had planned for them. When he arrived at the office, he found something he never expected. His fiancée and his brother were on Dale's office couch, having sex. Devastated, Shaun became angry, then hysterical, as he raged at them both. As Valerie tried to calm him down, Dale met his brother's anger with his own pent-up anger and rage, which only inflamed the situation more. Things quickly got out of hand. The fight was intense, and their anger boiled over. The confrontation between the two brothers became physical, and Shaun ended up severely beating Dale with his fists, banging his head repeatedly on the floor. The local police, led by Detective Clay Parker, were eventually called to the scene, and Dale was rushed to the hospital. The injuries he sustained were severe, and despite the best efforts of the doctors at the local hospital, he died the next day from his injuries. The news of Dale's death shocked everyone in Perry. It was a tragic event that left a deep impact on the small, tightly knit community. Many people in town knew both brothers and their now heartbroken family, and were deeply saddened by the turn of events. Shaun Delaney was arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter. During the trial, Shaun admitted his role in the fight and expressed deep sorrow and regret for what had happened. Nevertheless, the court, led by ADA Mariah Keene, found him guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced him to 10 years in prison. The once close relationship between Shaun and Dale had ended in tragedy, and Shaun's actions had changed the course of their lives forever. Shaun Delaney was released early from prison in 2024 due to good conduct and returned back home to Perry, where he resumed his role in the family business. The Delaney Trucking Company continued to operate, but the business was never quite the same after the events that had unfolded. The personal tragedy had overshadowed the family business, and the once close-knit team was now marked by the loss and conflict that had torn them apart. After the trial, Valerie Hampton quietly ended her engagement with Shaun. She was devastated by the events and felt that she needed to move on from Perry. Valerie eventually married another man and moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where she now resides with her husband and her daughter with Jack. The story of the Delaney brothers became a sad and tragic memory for many in Perry, a reminder of how competition, jealousy, and unresolved emotions can lead to heartbreaking consequences.